Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, the challenge of finding quality childcare in San Diego. The new city position that could improve access to childcare.
And so the more fish that are eating plastic, the more humans are eating plastic.
The tiny change in the food chain found under the sea and why it could disrupt life out of the water.
Hi, I'm Beth Accomando, and I am here in Balboa Park at the Starlight Bowl, and San Diego International Fringe is about to kick off its 7th year. KPBS Evening Edition starts now.
Good evening. It's Thursday, June 6th. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. Quality childcare in San Diego can be tough to find. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says city council members want the mayor to fund a new position to help.
Here you go.
Rosie Holmes is picking up her 3-year-old daughter Izzy from her daycare in Lincoln Park.
Okay, there you go.
Holmes is a single mom. She started her job as a clerk in the city treasurer's office a year ago. She says in those early days, she spent every lunch break making phone calls and researching childcare.
And trying to find out what's the difference between a county program, what's the difference between a state-funded program, what do I have access to, what's available to me.
San Diego has a severe shortage of childcare facilities, and the system can be confusing for first-time parents. Holmes says a childcare coordinator at the city would have been a huge help.
You know you'd have that one person to go to, and it's a trusted position.
City Councilman Chris Cate agrees. He became a father last summer with the birth of his daughter, Maddie Rose. He was one of 4 council members to request funding a child care coordinator. Cate says the position would help the city recruit and retain talented workers, especially women, and improve access to child care for everyone.
My vision would be to have this position housed potentially under economic development, because this is an economic development issue, and have that person work with different stakeholders, look at impediments to increasing the supply, offer policy recommendations to the city that we can do to help address the shortage that we have.
The child care coordinator position would cost about $118,000. The city council is scheduled to approve a budget for the next fiscal year on Monday. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
San Diego had a child care coordinator on staff as recently as 2005, but the position was eliminated. There's a generational divide among California Democrats. The Public Policy Institute surveyed voters about what they're looking for in a presidential nominee. Between 18 and 44 years old said they're more likely to pick a primary candidate whose positions on issues most closely match their own, while voters 45 and older said they're more likely to back the candidate they believe can defeat President Trump. A Bay Area company will lead a new collaboration to track greenhouse gases. It will track emissions from fossil fuel power plants with a global network of satellites. The company is called Wait Time. The chief says the 3-year project will give the general public open source data about the emissions of their local power sources.
Going to be using infrared sensors and image detection, kind of coupled with artificial intelligence to measure based on the heat rate coming out of the actual smokestacks of fossil fuel power plants, what the total emissions are of virtually every power plant in the world.
The EPA in Europe already monitor emissions, but countries like India, Saudi Arabia have no data that citizens can use to hold their power providers accountable. New research from UC San Diego shows tiny pieces of plastic are pervasive throughout the ocean well into the deep sea. KPBS science and technology reporter Selena Chatlani says this research shows deep sea animals could be at risk.
Here at the Scripps Institution of Oceanography in San Diego, researcher Anela Choi has been spending a lot of time with the ocean. Specifically, she's been navigating a deep diving robot and using it to scoop out water from Monterey Bay.
We wanted to look at the vertical extent of microplastic pollution and how that pollution might be getting into different species of animals that encompass the marine food at these different depths.
Microplastics are tiny, less than 5 millimeters in length, and they include things like the beads in face wash. And when Choi looked deep below the ocean surface, she found lots of them.
We found microplastic everywhere we looked, from shallow depths in the water column down to the deepest depths, and we also found them in the bodies and guts of animals, every animal specimen that we looked at.
Choi says her study is one of the first to systematically look at how much plastic is concentrated at different levels into the deep sea.
So we've done some studies that have shown that over 90% of the plastic in the ocean is smaller than a dime.
And researcher Jenny Brandon of San Diego's Birch Aquarium has been looking at the impacts these microplastics can have on ocean animals below the surface. She's been collecting jars and jars of this stuff.
So when I find plastic that's this size, it's actually probably going to be capable of entering any level of the food chain, because something really small could eat it, but then something at the total other end of the food chain might eat thousands of fish that have also eaten this.
Some animals fill up on it and die of starvation because it's not real food, she says. And microplastic also has chemicals that are toxic, not just to sea animals, but others down the food chain.
It can affect human health because we eat seafood, and the vast majority of the world gets their protein from seafood. And so the more fish that are eating plastic, the more humans are eating plastic. Right now, what it looks like is that it's not enough to really affect us. We're so much bigger than fish that the dose response of how much plastic we're eating isn't really affecting us, but it could certainly get to a level that it does start to affect us.
And because of that, Scripps researcher Anela Choi says she thinks there needs to be more studies on the impacts these plastics can have on different types of animals. Shalina Chatlani, KPBS News.
Researchers at the Birch Aquarium say one of the animals already impacted by microplastics is the Laysan albatross. Today, the VA is rolling out a major new program that will allow more veterans to see a doctor outside the department. KPBS military reporter Steve Walsh says VA officials from Washington to San Diego hope to learn from past mistakes.
Starting this week, the Mission Act is changing the way the VA works with outside doctors. VA San Diego Director Robert Smith says some services are brand new.
Under the Mission Act, there is an urgent care benefit where veterans can seek care at an urgent care center, a contracted urgent care center, with no pre-authorization, no referral. They can simply drop by and get care for, a bee sting.
Or bronchitis or stomach flu, just go right to urgent care. Veterans still have to be enrolled in VA care to qualify. The Mission Act is a follow-up on the Choice Act. VA Secretary Robert Wilkie says Congress quickly passed Choice in 2014 in the wake of the wait time scandal, where veterans languished for months on long waiting lists at Phoenix and other VAs around the country.
Veterans' Choice was a very hasty response to the problem in Phoenix. This department was given 90 days to change its direction, change its ethos, and that was absolutely impossible to do.
There were problems with billing and lost referrals. Some doctors dropped out. This time, Congress gave the VA a year to work out the details of the Mission Act. Choice also relied heavily on being managed by private contractors. The VA is taking back some of that control. Tasha Jones is a former Army medic who works as a section chief in customer service.
It is a lot of work, it is, but as long as we have the resources and the staff that we need, I'm confident that the VA can do the things like customer service and care coordination better. I'm actually excited that it's coming back.
VA San Diego hired 60 new people to manage the program, many of them schedulers like Jones, who arrange appointments and answer billing questions. The VA is also deploying new software to make it easier for doctors to share patient records with the VA. VA says the program roughly doubles the number of veterans who can go outside the VA. For primary care or mental health, veterans only have to show their wait time was longer than 20 days, or they live more than a half an hour drive from the VA facility.
Those are a small number of veterans, though, so about 95% of the veterans who are under our care would still have the bulk of their care or their coordination of care provided by the VA.
Smith says the VA is banking on most people sticking with VA care. Even with a year to prepare, it's all coming down to the wire. I interviewed the head of VA San Diego Monday. Some of the details about which providers would be part of the new urgent care benefit still hadn't been nailed down.
There's been a lot of contracting that's been going on in the background and kind of filling in the gaps, and I actually have not yet seen it. I have a promise of an email later today. I've not seen the complete list for the San Diego community.
Okay. And so
But it will be there June 6th.
June 6th. Veterans groups lobbied heavily to replace choice with a system more responsive to vets. Like the VA itself, the VFW, and other groups are waiting to see what happens after the new program goes live on Thursday. Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
By Monday, the U.S. could enact tariffs on one of its largest trading partners. President Trump and the Trump administration say these tariffs are a way to pressure Mexico to secure its border. But some U.S. lawmakers, including Representative Mike Levin, say these tariffs would actually hurt U.S. consumers. Representative Levin, thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
So are there enough votes in Congress to possibly block these tariffs?
Well, that's a great question. You know, if you listen to the president, he says that Kevin McCarthy and the GOP in the House is with him all the way. That's what the president tweeted recently. And I really don't understand that. You know, if Kevin McCarthy really wants to represent the interests of Californians, he does have a district in California, he would recognize the tremendous damage that these tariffs would do to the state of California. You know, we import $44 billion a year in goods from Mexico. And starting on Monday, we're going to have hundreds of millions of dollars a month. And as the tariffs increase from 5 to 10, 15, 20, all the way up to 25%, by October, $913 million will be the impact just in October alone on California. Of course, here in San Diego, in our region, we have a tremendous relationship with Mexico as it pertains to trade and economic development. According to the San Diego Chamber of Commerce, it would cost our local community, our local region, $1 billion a year. So this is absolutely wrong. It's going to hurt California consumers, San Diego consumers, and businesses as well. There was a recent report that said it could cost 400,000 plus jobs a year. So this is just wrong-headed, and for Kevin McCarthy or any other member, Republican member from the California congressional delegation to support these measures is highly irresponsible. And I think they have to decide, do they want to support President Trump or do they want to support the state of California? Because there's really no middle ground.
And you represent District 49. Have you been hearing from industries there? What are people telling you? What industries in your district will be hit the hardest?
I haven't met or spoken to a single business leader, and I try to speak to people across all different types of political backgrounds and really all different parts of my district, Republicans and Democrats alike. And I haven't met a single business person or business owner that wants to see these tariffs come into effect. So for the president to say that the Republicans in Congress are with him all the way, I can tell you that the residents of the 49th District are not with him all the way. They do not want to see these tariffs. They're highly irresponsible, and they'll hurt the California economy.
And what about the president's argument that Mexico is not doing enough to secure the border?
Well, I think we have to work on bipartisan, comprehensive immigration reform. There are proposals that are out there from the last Congress. They're still there today. I speak with my friends across the aisle. They want to see that as well. And, you know, we just passed the Dream and Promise Act in the House this past week, H.R. 6, to provide a pathway to citizenship for dreamers, many of whom have been here since they were young children. That clearly doesn't go far enough. But we did get 7 Republicans to support us on that bill, and we got every single Democrat in the House to support that bill. In the last Congress, the 115th Congress, there were broad bipartisan efforts to have a comprehensive immigration package. I'd like to see those discussions start anew. We do need to have a discussion about border security. That's why when the shutdown ended, if you'll recall, when we passed the package to actually end the shutdown, we provided over $450 million for humanitarian assistance and hundreds of millions more for border security as part of that package. I visited the Port of San Ysidro. I've spoken to the acting Customs and Border Protection head, Sanders, and I'm hopeful that we're going to have a immigration policy that treats people with dignity and humanity. And I asked a very tough question of Director Sanders, which was, could he assure me that there would not be another unnecessary death of a child separated from their family? He assured me, he promised me that they would do everything that they could to prevent that from happening, but we need to hold them to account because we have to treat people with decency and respect, and I am concerned that that's not happening.
Can we move on now to San Onofre, which is in your district? You've made it a priority, even forming a task force and proposing recent legislation which would address the spent nuclear fuel storage concerns there. Since taking office, do you feel more at ease about the safety on that site or less?
I did propose legislation that would prioritize the movement of waste in any area that has higher population density or has higher risks of earthquakes. We know from San Onofre that we have 8.3 million people within a 50-mile radius, and we also have 2 active earthquake faults and a whole network of inactive earthquake faults. Also very important is that I just got $25 million in the House Appropriations package. This is something that we've been working for quite some time to do, but it hasn't happened. But now we have that $25 million for consolidated interim storage. The key is not only getting the waste off the coast, but also having somewhere to send it and having a means to get it there.
And when hearing from the experts as part of that task force, were you reassured about the safety of the site? What is prompting you to want to speed up the process?
Well, I think the situation is not perfect, and it's far from it. In fact, you've got 1,600 tons of radioactive material that are being stored in canisters. Those canisters themselves have had issues, and I have concerns, as we all should, particularly when you have active earthquake faults and you have 8 million people within 50 miles, and when you have a strategic asset of the United States military in Camp Pendleton right across the freeway. You need to get the waste, the nuclear waste, off the coast and away from that strategic asset of the military. That is why I think an interim storage facility, in the absence of a permanent facility like Yucca Mountain, we do need to move to an interim site. My own thinking over the last couple of years, as I've gotten a whole variety of briefings from the experts, has continued to evolve, but I think it's really critical that we have an interim site and that we have a transportation plan and that we do it safely, that we transport the waste safely. So I'm concerned about the canisters. I'm concerned about the near drop of a canister. Last August, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission actually fined Edison, Southern California Edison, that owns the majority of the plant, $116,000. I've called for an inspector as well, for a full-time inspector, because currently there is no full-time inspector. They have done a better job of examining the canisters that are on the site with cameras that are designed to be able to tell if there are microscopic scratches or gouges that potentially lead to brittleness and cracking of the canisters. So there is a transparency and accountability that we've been moving towards. I'm encouraged by a lot of that. I've got a number of constituents that are scientists and engineers who are very active and involved in this. And then, of course, Admiral Herring, as co-chair of the task force, whose job used to be to transport, among other things, transport nuclear material for the Navy. So we've got a great number of resources and a great desire to see this move off the coast. We just want to do it as quickly and as safely as possible.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm William Brangham. Tonight on the NewsHour, the fight over abortion in Missouri. Will the state's only clinic be allowed to continue providing the service? Coming up at 7, right after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Pretty dry days ahead for Southern California, but we will notice slightly cooler conditions depending on your location, coast versus inland, valleys, and mountains. I want to take you into your satellite and radar from way earlier today, and then we had some moisture back into Northern California, even back into portions of Utah. This is associated with a upper level trough, meaning an area of disturbance, and that's going to bring in some cooler air for tomorrow's forecast. Tonight, still some low clouds on tap for San Diego with a low of 62. We'll be cooling down into the lower 60s as well for Oceanside, and also looking at those low clouds. We'll see them into the morning hours on your Friday as well. 70 for your overnight low in Borrego Springs and 55 in Mount Laguna. Better chance for moonlight as you head further inland. Now for Friday, there's that cooler air dropping in across portions of California. Once again, the southwest heat going to try to hold its own, especially as you head into the deserts. Going to be typical heat even back into Arizona. We're topping off at 72 in Oceanside, 71 in San Diego, 99 in Borrego Springs, and in the lower 70s into Mount Laguna. Moving into the weekend where we're ready to have some fun. Well, that warm and dry pattern continues. We'll get more of an offshore flow for Saturday and Sunday. That's going to allow for the sun to thrive, and then into the early week, high pressure builds in and temperatures going to be rising. So in the lower 70s Friday and Saturday here with partly sunny skies. Not a bad forecast by any means. partly sunny skies Sunday, and looking at that partial sunshine for Monday and Tuesday, but notice temperatures creeping close to 80 degrees into the early week at the coast. If you're out towards the inland areas, you're also getting that warm up, but first a bit cooler tomorrow, high of 78, then back into the 80s for your weekend and into early week. Warm air building as that high pressure builds in for Monday and Tuesday. And where we're really going to notice that warmth is the desert as always. Friday, Saturday, upper 90s. Sunday in the triple digits for your forecast, and that continues into your Monday and Tuesday. Definitely want to stay hydrated if you plan to be outdoors in the desert region. 70s for the mountains with some cooler conditions tomorrow, and then we'll continue to warm up into the mid 70s for Monday with plenty of sun. Reporting for KPBS News, I'm your meteorologist, Dajia Swad. Back to you.
San Diego International Fringe Festival kicks off its Lucky 7 year tonight in Balboa Park. Hundreds of artists from San Diego and around the globe will be performing shows for the next 11 days. KPBS arts reporter Beth Accomando is in Balboa Park tonight to explain what fringing is all about. Hi, Beth.
Hi, that's right. We're here in front of the Starlight Bowl where the San Diego International Fringe is about to kick off tonight. 11 days of what they call eyeball-busting entertainment and shows. So I have Amika Hunter here, who is the associate producer here at Fringe. Now, one of the first things you need to know about Fringe is the Fringe tag. What's this about?
So the Fringe tag is the way that the festival makes any money at all to keep it going. This is it right here. It's only $5. You buy it one time, and then you get to see all of the shows in the whole festival. So this is key.
And what are some of the new things at Fringe this year? This is the 7th year, but there are some changes.
Oh, there's some big changes. This year, for the first time, we're at Balboa Park. So this is a really amazing platform where we're going to get to expand into so many different venues all in one central location. So it's our first year in the park. We're also pairing with Save Starlight Foundation and also Feeding San Diego this year. And we're going green. It's a new initiative where we don't have printed programs, so you find all the information for shows online this year.
And do you have any tips for people who might be fringing for the first time?
I would say show up with an open mind and go see something that you'd never pick on your own. You can find some really amazing...
Yes, we're at the Starlight Bowl, so we have planes.
It's all part of the Fringe here, so there's all kinds of excitement around.
And we have some excitement behind us here. This is Laura Oakley and Jackson Cordry, and you guys have come all the way from Wellington. So explain how you got here.
Wellington, New Zealand, and Aotearoa. Well, we sat on a plane for a very long time, almost a day. But we're lucky enough to be here because the Wellington Fringe, the Fringe Festival in New Zealand, awarded us a Cultural Exchange Award. So that's how we got here. And, you know, it's something we wouldn't have been able to do without that award, without all that support. So it's just so exciting to be here in San Diego.
Now, explain what people can expect from your show. And this is called Realize, and it's real and then parentheses ISE.
Real eyes, that's right. The idea is that you can realize your reality, and, you know, there's a lot of different words that can fit into that. But basically, it's our opening night tonight, so we're really excited. The show is about 3 crazy, quirky characters who basically discover the world together. So it follows their journey discovering life and its ups and downs. And along the way, we incorporate lots of different circus skills. Laura, as you can see, does hula hoops. I do aerial silk. Lots of other aerials and ground-based skills, and clowning as well. It's a funny show.
And you have one other member in your group, and what does she specialize in?
Sophia, she specializes in aerial hoop and handstands.
So at Fringe, what is it like doing circus? Because one of the things about circuses is you're doing this live physical skills, and it's very impressive what you guys can do. And do you get into the audience kind of oohing and awing at what you're doing?
Oh, we love it. Look, the audience interaction part about circus is what's so special about it. Like, you're seeing these very sometimes dangerous, exciting skills just happening right in front of your eyes, you know, so you can't really beat that. And you can't replicate that like watching on YouTube or watching at home, you know. Seeing it live is what it's all about.
And what's special about Fringe for artists?
I think the diversity of art forms that are in Fringe, and just within our show we combine lots of different things, elements of theatre and circus and clowning and all sorts, but also as artists and as audience members in the Fringe you can go and see 3 shows in one night from, you know, 3 completely different backgrounds that tell through completely different stories. So yeah, that's really special.
Okay, you guys are going to be performing tonight, so I'll let you get back to warming up back here.
Thank you.
San Diego Fringe continues through June 16th at multiple venues. There's 3 here in Balboa Park, and also locations like Les Girls and Tap Fever Dance Studios in Pacific Beach. So come and check out the show here.
Sounds like a lot of fun. Thanks, Beth. Here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. On Morning Edition, getting ready to score. Women's World Cup starts tomorrow. Why teams are struggling to be taken seriously in France. And on Roundtable, breaking down violent crime trends in San Diego. Which neighborhoods are seeing more of it and how law enforcement is responding. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.